There we go. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Cernuto, and I'm a member of the Social Media Committee for Cbdna and the Director of Bands at Millersville University in Millersville, Pennsylvania. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 5th session of our inaugural Cbdna web series. First, a few matters of housekeeping. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the webinar. If you have questions throughout the event, please type them in the chat window. We have reserved time at the end of the webinar to answer your questions, and I will monitor them and write them down. A note about the chat. Private chat has been disabled, so anything you type in the chat will be seen by everyone. This session is being recorded, and the video will be archived in the Cbdna YouTube channel. I will place a link to the YouTube channel in the chat window. Today's webinar is timely for us in our profession and is entitled Student Engagement in an Online Platform. I'm pleased to introduce today's presenter, Dr. David Betancourt. He has been the Director of Bands and Orchestra at Cerritos College in Cerritos, California since 1998. He was recognized by his college as Outstanding Faculty in 2015 and Most Outstanding Faculty in 2016. Since 2012, he has been the coordinator of the Center for Teaching Excellence at Cerritos, developing an extensive and vibrant program of professional learning opportunities for his entire campus community. Dr. Betancourt is an active guest conductor, adjudicator, and clinician on the district, regional, state, national, and international platforms. So with a virtual round of applause, let's please welcome David Betancourt.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys who, actually put your hands up, and, we're so used to hearing that from behind us. So if you want to turn around while you do that. Oh, no, I'll turn around. You do that. Okay. Anyways, I'm already wasting your time. So thank you very much, Joe, for that introduction. And I'm excited to be here and seeing so many familiar faces as I look through. A lot of you are black screened, so sorry if I don't recognize the black screen. Let me get right into it. So as you all know, we're like hitting unprecedented times here. And while the spring was more of a triage thing, now we have this sort of temporary permanency that's in place. And we're dealing with, some of us are still trying to get face-to-face and doing that. A lot of us don't have an option. Like, we're going all virtual all the way. That's how we are in California, pretty much across the state. So I just wanted to cover a lot of things that we can do online to really help keep the students engaged with what we're doing. And so what I'm going to do, if that's okay with you guys, is I'm going to just share, I have some PowerPoint slides, not too many, don't worry. But I want to just put some of that up there for you guys and kind of go through it so you can see what we're going to do today and all that tasty stuff. Let me just make sure this is started. There we go. Okay, and obviously I was in the middle of that. All right. So we're talking about student engagement, all that good tasty stuff. I just want to tell you what we're going to cover today real quick. Just first getting our mind around the whole thing. We've sort of been forced to do that anyways. I'm just interested in sharing some ideas of how I've embraced the online strategy as a whole. And then actually talking about specific strategies that we can use online to really engage the students, to be connected with them. Some very specific activities that we can do as band directors that are online. The tech stuff that we need to think about. And then some resources that I want to give you that maybe we don't all have yet. We've been getting a lot of great stuff from Cbdna, the study and all the communication and workshops. And there's some other things that I'm fortunate to be privy to that I just want to share with you guys that might help some of you. And then the Q&A, notice that I said Q and maybe A, because we are completely in uncharted territory here. And so it'd be great to just say, yeah, we have all the answers, but we may not have all the answers. So, but we probably have a lot of questions. So that's sort of what we're going to hit real quick in the next hour. I want to start first with just the mindset part. So I know that a lot of us, for us, we want to hold on to the tradition, like this is what we've had for as long as we've been teaching, all the kids together making music. And honestly, when you think about it, the thing that we've been working on for, I'm sure for every one of you for your entire career, is the skill set that we've developed where you can actually walk into a room of musicians and instantaneously, as you begin to create music, read their expressions, read their reactions, read the sounds they're creating. You do everything in the moment, and then you respond to it. That creates a whole nother level of experience for them. And you do that every day, day in and day out. And it's it's amazing. It's passionate, it's invigorating, it's inspiring, it's motivational. It's, you have tears, you have laughter. It's all there, but it happens in real time right in front of you. And it's a skill set that we've all worked on. And suddenly we don't have that anymore. We can't read their faces. We can't hear their sounds all together. We can't do any of that stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I felt really lost for a while. Like even with the online experience I had, I felt lost not being able to use that skill set, of just being able to do that in the moment. So I had to really step back and think about what I could do, like what other skill sets I had, and fortunate to bounce back to the stuff that I did with the Center for Teaching Excellence. So for me, it's been not so much abandoning the traditional, because we know that that's there. And I'm sure most of you feel the same way, like you are dying to just get back to that area, get to that spot where we know the magic happens. It doesn't matter what anybody tells us, what any research says, we know that getting back into that space is the most impactful, influential experience they can have with us. So we're going to get back to that, but we're in this temporary permanency right now. So my mindset has been to embrace what else we can do to serve the students. What other way can we still continue to bring music to them, have them share music, have them experience music, and serve them as they're coming through the program, as they interact with us, right? And with each other. Like, how do we create all of that without being able to do that most important thing that we think is, like, we know that's the thing. So that's part of the mindset. The other part too that's really important that I've discovered is that we're used to that setting right there. As you see that picture, that's our classroom, right? They all come in there and we know what happens there. We have so much control over that environment in the best way possible. But we now know that that's no longer the case, right? This is their new environment. Which one of these kids is your band kid? Of these 5, who is the band kid? Who knows, right? What we do know, if it's the girl in the red sweatshirt, she's dealing with the other 4 in that closing, like, we don't know what their environment really is anymore. We don't know where they are with their family, if they're on their own. What we do know is we're trying to give them something outside of the control of our environment. And so that's really important. I think I've really embraced that mindset because it's allowed me to become much more patient with, like, folks who don't respond, or they don't get in their assignments on time, or they don't produce a playing thing that I was expecting. Whatever it is, I don't default to the, okay, this is your grade or this is that. I default to the, let me find out what's going on with them. How can I help them? Because I know for a fact that they're not sitting in my band room anymore. They could be sitting in a thing like this. So I've embraced that. And the third thing in the mindset, just the third thing for this little section, is that we have to really go and talk to our administrators. If you're wanting to keep things, to sustain whatever idea of the program you have right now, then you need to get your advocates on the front side of you, not on the back side, not them asking you which classes they can cut or what they're going to do, but you've been able to say, this is what we're doing now, and this is why we're doing it, and I just need you to support me. I've had this very hard conversation with our administration recently, because they just said, why don't you just cut band? Because, California's going all virtual. I mean, everybody's going virtual. And they're just like, why don't you just stop for a semester? I said, I can't do that. That's the easy solution. But I can't do that because you understand how many students are going to be hurt from that. The students who are going to drop out for a semester, who don't come back. All research shows this. If you want to see the research, I'll show it to you. And I can't do that because the community needs music right now. We don't need to figure out how to keep the students safe. And this is something that one of our colleagues said before, and I've shared it with you guys, but it's more, let's figure out what our students need and then make that safe. And so that's what I've been working on. And so I shared that with him, and I said, look, the harder solution is the one I want to pursue, which is how do we make this happen for our students? And I'll share some of that in a little bit. But talking to them, so I have this image, talking to administrators. I don't know if any of you band directors are also administrators or middle management. This is my image for talking to administrators. Before I walk into that office, I'm going to take a deep breath, and then here I go. I'm going to do it because I'm doing it for the students. So there's the mindset. I want to get right to the strategies, though. And these are sort of global strategies because we have to go online. And I do need to share with you guys that as I run through this stuff, if you're like a note taker or anything, I have a full-on handout that doesn't just cover an outline form, but gives all the bullets I'm about to give you. The only thing it's not going to give you is the questions and answers you may ask, or if we pontificate on any particular thing. But I have this all in writing already. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to share it with Joe. He's going to put it on every site that he can put it on. So you'll have all of this, okay? Just so you know ahead of time. So I'd rather that you engage and just let me know, or let Joe know if there's a question you have along the way. Just put it in the chat. He'll interrupt me if I breathe. I breathe at least once every hour like a whale, so you can catch me there. And he'll pop it in, okay? He'll pop in the question for you. So first, show up and be present. Here are a couple of things that work really well, and stop me when you want to. Number one, whatever platform you're using, make extensive use of the announcement tool. The way you, and that tool for any platform means that you're announcing it to everybody, right? It's not individual. So that tool I have found has been probably the most influential tool on the platform that makes the students feel like you're engaged, simply because you can put an announcement every day if you want. And the announcement can be about what you plan for them to practice, or what music is going to go out to them on a PDF, or when they're going to Zoom in with you, or hey, this is what's going on now in the music department or in the band, or here's a link that I found that's really cool. Check out this virtual band thing. It could be anything. One of the things that I do often is I provide words of encouragement to them. I'll say, hey guys, you're doing this. This happened really well, or the student sent me this. I want you guys to see this. It's incredible. So I use it all the time. One of the really great features about that is that once you learn the platform, it's like sending an email, except that you can actually, I think every platform I know of, you can date them. And what that means is you don't have to wait in the moment and then decide, oh, I want to send something out today. You can actually take a look at your fall schedule and what you think you're going to do, and you could plan out all the announcements, maybe put 10, 20, 30, whatever. I have about 50, to be honest. And I put them out there, and then they just go automatically. I don't have to think about them. But the way the students treat them is that they are getting them all the time. They think you're on the computer all the time. It's a very efficient way to do it as well. So the announcements, if you have, well, most platforms, again, they have a video feature. These are awesome, by the way. In fact, and I'm gonna not pick on, but I'm gonna just, if you don't mind, Frank Trace over there from K-State, he's been sending stuff out, and I only know because my two boys are over there with you. Don't worry, Frank, I'm gonna say all good things about you right now. Just for this hour, you're gonna be fine. But they've been doing these great things of basically showing announcements, but in video form. That is so much more personable than a text, as you know. So it's a great way to engage. You can do a 30-minute text, a 30-minute vid on any announcement, pop it in. I'm telling you, it's hugely impactful. So the other thing is to engage them is using a discussion. Use your discussion tool on there. You know, you can post different things and just let them go back and forth with each other. And you'll find that there's certain students that just connect that way. That's just the way they like to do it. And so you're trying to find different ways for the students to feel connected to you and to your program. And that really is the goal, because once a student feels connected to you and your program, they will work for it. They will work for you, which means they're working for themselves. And we know that already. And that's what you want. You want them to be doing things for themselves, even if they feel like they're doing it for the team, which they will be. The individual messages, you all have that capability too. Different than announcements, right? So these are ones where you can send it. And yeah, you can send it on your email platform, but the great thing about sending it on your class learning system is that it stays in that class forever. So if you need to come back to it, you can come back to it. So using the individual stuff when they send you something, or you need to talk to one individual student, that makes a big difference. Audios are much faster. If you just want to send a quick audio, you'll see the button of the microphone on your message thing. Really good for them to hear your voice and see you. Here's an easy one, but I just got to tell you, don't forget to respond. If somebody contacts you, respond. Not at 3 in the morning. Give it at least a minimum of 24 hours, but respond to them. It makes a big difference. I've already talked about encouraging progress. And then this is just so I wrote down dress the part. So if you're going to be communicating with them and they see you, dress the part. And by that, all I mean is, what would you normally wear if you were going to see them face to face? That's all I mean. I'm not saying look as suave as I do. Well, I only think that, but that's not the point at all. The point is, if you are going to walk into a rehearsal in your PJs, and that's your thing. Okay, well then that's how you Zoom. But if you are walking in any other different kind of attire, then use that attire when you communicate with the students. It does make a difference, because they, even in an unconscious level, understand that you are presenting yourself as a teacher to them, as an instructor, as a band director. And the other thing, which we actually didn't do today, but it was purposeful, is start early. And this has to do, again, with showing up and being present. Remember, that's the topic. So if you're going to do any kind of Zoom, anything like that, where it's a video thing, show up early. And the easy way to describe that is, if you're going to go to rehearsal, chances are you're not going to walk into that rehearsal if it starts at 7. You're not going to walk in at 7 o'clock, right? Because you've missed an opportunity to talk to the students, all the things you usually do. So do the same on a Zoom. If you're doing a Zoom at 7, open up 10 minutes early and see who comes in. And when they come in, just shoot the breeze with them. Huge, huge impact with the students. So I'm going to keep plowing through because I only have an hour. So you can stop me anytime by just putting a question in the chat or a comment in the chat, and he'll let me know. Otherwise, I want to keep going to the next thing. Oops, let me go back, which is manage your course. All right, this is a little more technical, but it's these are, again, general, really things that you can do to help the students stay engaged. Because if your course isn't managed, if it's not organized, you'll lose them real quick, right? So here's one thing: make your requirements visible. If there's something that's going to be required, make sure it's listed on your course site, right there, nice and clear, wherever you're going to put it in your syllabus, or if you create links, however you do it. And I can show you a couple of my pages later on if you would like in the Q&A section. I can show you how I've created my stuff on my platform is Canvas. Make sure that you also include engagement protocols. Really important. All that means is when they email you, how long can they expect for a response? You know, how should they contact you? Should they contact you just through the classwork? Is there a different way to contact you? Is there a social media site? Anything like that? Just figuring out how that's going to work. Also, a little blurb about being respectful and how the platform is navigated in terms of language. Okay, you want to put all that down ahead of time. Your grading procedure, that's obvious, but just make sure your grading procedure's there. What I've noticed in doing that and making it real specific is I never get a question anymore about my grades, like ever about their grades. So really nice. Of course, make sure you have your calendar and activities. Most of you have websites already, right? You have your own like band website. You know what? Copy and paste that link, or just copy the word and put it in your course management system if that's the way you're going to do it. However you're going to have them navigate to the information, just make sure it's there for them so they can, again, they can just see how everything is organized in your class. Make sure that you've organized, if you have any kind of tutorials at all, anything like that, they're actually organized sequentially. They're not just thrown in. One of the worst things you could do is say, go to this site, click on this and go here, and then you'll find this over there. Then you click down and drag down here. That is the worst. Because basically you're playing a whole nother level of like, look, for you to take this class, you need to first learn how to do this, right? And you want to eliminate that. And that's work on us for sure. I'm not going to deny that. There is a lot of work to get it all set up first. Again, I can show you some of that if we have time. But it's so worth it. The comments that I've received over the last several months from students who've taken, this is like about my 5th class now in the last 3-4 months where I'm working with students, and really positive feedback on some of the practices I mentioned in here. Your content delivery. So this is just something to consider. Whatever you're going to put on there that's content, the stuff that you want them to sort of take in. Again, not announcements, but maybe it's some history on the wind band, or maybe it's on a piece, information on a piece, or how to practice, whatever it is. Really consider whether you're going to deliver that synchronously or asynchronously. For me, if it's going to be on your course management system, it's going to be asynchronous. It's going to be something you've put on there that they can grab anytime. So if that's the case, again, you want to try to go away from the click here and find it here and then go there. You want to get more to the, hey, you could put that content in an announcement and say, this is what I want you to check out today. Link it up to that content, boom, then they're there. They don't have to search anywhere. It's just a click away. I've just mentioned this already. So I'm talking about sort of making your site user-friendly. I've already covered that, except I do want to mention again, and I will show you this actually. Yeah, I'll show you this in a little bit if I've got time. if you can make your course, again, this is using your course management system, not necessarily a website, but you could do it on your own personal website. If you can make your course so that all they do is click next, 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 and they get to everything, that is the easiest way to keep them engaged. It's the easiest way. And so I'll show you how I do that in a little bit. If you have any assignments, definitely monitor them. Any assignments at all, you want to provide a little bit of feedback. I will tell you a little trick that I use when I do that is I have sort of a cut and paste job. Because most of them nail what we're talking about, or most of them are on target with whatever topic we're on. I have like maybe it says like, great job at this, or I really enjoyed your discussion points in this. And I'll just copy and paste that with their name. I always include their name because again, that's another way to engage them. Even though they know you know their name, you would use it in rehearsal, right? So use it here, same idea. And so I'll copy and paste that with their name. And then those who are maybe didn't quite get it, they're talking about spaghetti when we're talking about Holst. Well, then I'll have a special one for them. And then the last thing along managing the course is just establish patterns. This is also really important because this just keeps them sort of in line. They know what to expect, and that's really what you're trying to do. So you establish patterns of communication so they understand, like when they email you, it's coming back. Like they know they're going to get something in 24 hours, for instance. That's an example. You establish patterns in how you deliver the content. It's not that with everything that you give them, it's brand new. Like, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. You know, they see how things get laid out to them. And you establish assessments. You establish how you're grading stuff. And it's very consistent across the board. So them knowing those patterns and understanding how things work is, again, it's something that they can just expect to happen and they don't have to think about. And which means you can focus in on all the other stuff that we want to do.
Hey,
And the
David.
last thing here on this, yes, go ahead. Sorry, I know I don't breathe.
No, it's okay. I just, and this may be something you'll get to eventually, but there's a really great question in the chat that I think is applicable to ask now. And the
Yep.
question was, have you considered not grading at this time, or at least altering your expectations and why students want to be there?
Yes. Okay. So, and I addressed that a little bit in my social outreach section I'll get to, but globally, the answer is without a doubt. Without a doubt, I have considered everything, all the things we talked about in terms of their challenges and our challenges. Because let's face it, how many of us for the first time have to go online with a band, right? So it's interesting. It almost gets us to this, actually, the being human part, but I've definitely considered, or I definitely have changed my grading. In the spring, I gave them the benefit of the doubt every which way in the spring, simply because there were some students who suddenly lost the internet. There were some students who only had internet with the 6 other siblings. And so I had to make concessions, and I figured out how to do that with them. For the fall, I will continue to do that, but because now the course is going to be more strictly managed and I've had some experience, now I'm going to be able to embed some of that flexibility of grading and what things are going to be graded, actually. So yeah, that's a great question, because the idea, again, this goes back to the very beginning, the first statement I made. The idea that we take the traditional model and try to make it, to put it online, I'm just going to tell you guys, if any of you have tried that, you already know the answer to that. No, it doesn't work. So you have to think differently. How can we help the students? And this is one way, the grading thing. And that's part of this last point, which is being human. How do we, that's one way of being human, is to recognize and realize and embrace the idea that we need to be flexible in our assessments and figure out how do we make that happen without us spinning our wheels 24/7. That's also really important. So you establishing a grading policy that allows for flexibility is a really good way for you not to spin your wheels. So you don't have to look at every student and go, oh, okay, for this student, I'm going to do this. Oh, wait, for this, no. You go back to the policy, but change your policy. And it's a small change will make a huge difference. In terms of just what you're doing online, let me just say that quality counts. If you go half at it, then that's going to show on the other side, because students will check out. Use your grad students, use your undergrad students, use anybody who loves tech, and you all know people in your bands who love tech. They will just go and spin their wheels on it all the time. Grab those folks and have them help you in terms of what you're doing online if you're not comfortable with it. Obviously, they can't go to the individual grade stuff, but that doesn't mean they can't help you with how to format your class and stuff. So use them because it will make a difference. At the same time, I just want to remind you to accept mistakes, not just from your students, but from yourself. We're covering a lot of ground here, guys. And so we're all going to make mistakes. I've already made plenty. Thank you very much. And in fact, the beauty of that is if you happen to make a mistake that your students notice, which I've done several times, I've had students already tell me, hey, Dr. B, this quiz you gave us, question number 7, I don't think that's right. So I got to go look at it and go, oops, yeah, it's not right. But it empowers you to show them that you're still learning, which then empowers them to be learners. It's a win-win, believe me on that. So any kind of mistake you make, I'm not saying go out and just make mistakes for fun of it. I'm just saying when a mistake is made, think of it as an opportunity to empower the students and yourselves in the learning process. And that is a very global way to look at what we're doing with our students. Make sure you take a few minutes once you've got your pages set up and everything's good. Please take a few minutes or have somebody do this for you. For me, I suggest that because fresh eyes are better, and walk through their shoes. Go ahead and click through and let somebody do that for you to just look at it and go, hey, yeah, this looks cool, or oh no, that's not working, or this link didn't work, or whatever, have somebody do that for you. What's really great about that is if they do it for you, it's fresh eyes and it's not taking any more of your time, right? It's somebody else that's doing it. Just get somebody who's willing. It's really efficient. This goes back to the grading that Joe mentioned, but do provide accountability. There's different ways to do that, which I'm going to show you in a minute, but provide accountability. It's a very human trait that we have, isn't it? We want them to be able to do everything. We know what we think is important for them, but when you provide any level of accountability for a student, it's this much of your grade or it's 10 points of this, it does extrinsically motivate them, some of them, to go for it and do it. And we really want them to. So even that's engagement. I already mentioned show yourself on the video, like what we're doing now. As you know, this goes back to the original point. Being able to read people like we're doing now, like I'm watching you guys, and who is that? Tim, who's asleep? I can see you're asleep, so I have to come up with a really good joke. And oh, by the way, I just made up that name. So if your name is Tim, I'm not talking to you, okay? But being able to show a video does make a big difference because, as you know, losing that ability in a classroom would be horrendous, right? And so we're trying to find some way with technology to get back to that. This is a very practical way. Encourage them to have their cameras on so you can see them and they can see you, okay? I don't have that many slides, don't worry, but that covered a lot of the global stuff. I want to get into very specific band stuff now, if that's cool with you guys. I'm going to keep going. Joe, I'm going to guess that, you know what, Joe, do me a favor. Just like show me that you want it, that I need to stop breathing for a second. Start breathing, whatever. Just show me with a hand up so I know you have a question to address, okay? Otherwise, I'll keep going. So here's some activities. We all already know about the virtual band. Yeah. It's a huge project. I just did one. It was 2.5 minutes long. Holy smokes. I did it all just because I wanted to learn about it, to see how long it takes. Everybody said it takes forever. I thought, oh, it can't take that long. It took hours, but it's because I didn't know the platform. Here's what I do want to tell you about that. This goes back to me talking to my administrators. The funny thing is that the thing that got them to say, yes, keep going, was when I said, we could do a virtual band. I was the guy 3 months ago saying, I will never do a virtual band. I will never do it. It's not band. We all know it's still not. It's still not. But that was the thing that gave me the green light. So I learned how to do it. What I will tell you this, you know that like Imovie does a very limited thing. So that's for small groups if you aren't familiar with it. Adobe Premiere Pro is like the big grandfather thing. That's the one that I learned. I literally had to learn that platform from scratch. And I'm a tech savvy enough guy to do it. But what I did for you guys is I put together the best links that I found on YouTube. If you decide you want to go down that route anytime in the near future, I'm going to make sure that Joe gets that link to you guys, to everybody who wants it. And my criteria for the link list was really simple. Was it direct? Was it to the point? Was it clear? Was it short? Was it chunked right? Covering specific topics. And so that's my list. I've got about 6 or 7 videos that just literally, if you don't know anything about it, it will walk you step by step. Here's the next thing. Good. Next video, 5 minutes long. Here's the next thing. So that's what I've done. And I'll share that with you guys for sure, so you'll have it if you decide to go that route. I used Audacity, which is a free app. I used it for audio. Just a quick for you techie guys or non-techie people. You can do everything on Adobe Premiere Pro, like literally all the sound and video. But I decided to do the audio on Audacity so I could have one track. It was so much easier in the end for me. I decided. But that's up to you guys. I don't want to get too techie into this. I just want to let you guys know it's totally doable. It does take a lot of time the first time. And here's my real suggestion for you. You all most likely have at least one, if not more, students in your program who would love to do this. Like literally would love it more than playing your instrument for you. They would. Find them. This is what's going to help them in the next semester. Honestly, this will help them more than playing in your ensemble. I know I probably shouldn't say that. You're like, what? Now somebody's paying attention saying, shut this guy off. But isn't our goal to help our students succeed? How do we help them succeed right now? You have somebody in your ensemble that has this skill set already in place. And if they don't, they would love it. So find that person, put out a quick announcement to your kids and find out who that's going to be. And believe me, it will pay dividends. Okay, so that's the virtual band thing. We're going to do a few of them this semester. Now that I've seen how it works, I know I can handle it. So we're going to do a few. I hope to do enough to send out to get them to people, and just like what you've seen on YouTube, if you've seen that, and on the different social media. The Zooming I have found is really big for engagement. I don't know how many of you, I would say show of hands, but I can't see all of you. So what I've discovered is that now that we can't see them anymore, but we can see them this way, Zooming is huge. And so the question I have for you is, when you think about Zooming, please consider your purpose for Zooming. Is it a one-way thing, a one-way communication, or is it a two-way thing? Because if it's one-way, if it's more about content delivery, then really consider just putting that on the platform and making it asynchronous. In other words, they can just grab it anytime. You tell them, hey, it's available now, boom, go, during the semester, or how are you going to do that? But if it's going to be two-way, that is the most powerful way to use Zoom, in my opinion. Because what I've discovered is the students want to see you. They want to see your face. They want to talk to you. Yes, of course, they want to play music. Oh, of course, above all. But to be able to see and talk to you, wow, that's made all the difference in the world for the students that I've talked to and the band directors I've talked to, just being able to talk. Sometimes they don't even talk about music. Sometimes. But that's the 10 minutes before. Then you have your agenda. So the other great thing about Zoom is, I don't know how many of you have done this already, it allows you to bring in some great people to talk to your students that you wouldn't normally even think about now. Everybody's doing it. Who do you want to bring in? Contact them. What's it going to cost? Maybe not that much these days. A lot of people are doing it just to help each other out. And so if that's the case, get other directors to talk to your students in the Zoom, get other composers to talk to your students, get artists to talk to your students. They can even play. I've done a fair amount of that. And it's just really successful because it's something we're not used to doing, because we go in and rehearse and boom, 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 and we're done and we're out. We got a performance to get to. But they're going to spend so much time honing their skills outside of your classroom now. That you want to figure out, what do you want to do when you're together? What is the thing that's going to be most impactful? Making the connection is most impactful. Of course, I mentioned this a little bit, performing for each other. I did a lot. I tried this just for fun. It's like, we're trying to figure out how do we connect, and kids are, I don't know how many of you had students who in the spring who literally would go on Zoom and start crying. Anybody? Like right here. Every week I had somebody crying. They just missed it so much, and they missed the interaction. And so we started doing this playing together thing where we would play for each other. After a while, I didn't even have to be in the Zoom anymore. It was funny. I mean, they wanted to keep going, so I'd leave the Zoom meeting going. I'd give it to a new host, and they would literally play for each other. And that happened once we developed the climate of like being able to share in that way, to be able to engage in that way. So that kept the students going. I'll tell you what, in my spring semester, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 classes. I had 2 students drop in the spring. That's it. Everybody else stayed on. So to me, that's good stats. All right, real quick, use your chat feature on Zoom for sure. Use that. Let them navigate because, you know, some people, as you know, even in your band rehearsals, some of your students will never say anything in band. Like literally, they will never, when you ask a question, they don't say anything. But you put something online for them to say, like a chat in the Zoom, and you can't shut them up. Like that's the way they navigate their discussion and dialogue. So let them do that. Use the chat feature. Use the breakout room. If you have not used the breakout room before, check out Zoom. Just Google it, how to use the breakout. It's so easy. But the really cool thing about it that I want to share with you is it lets them talk to each other in small groups. My suggestion is do groups of 3. Don't make it bigger than 3. I don't care if you have 400 people. Do groups of 3 because that means they don't have to navigate the technology. You put a large group together, like us. If we decided we were going to have a group discussion right now, it would be horrendous. The technology would get in our way. But a group of 3, it doesn't get in the way. They figure it out in seconds how they have to talk. And then you put the timer on there. Use a timer. So you want them to talk for 5 minutes, put the timer. It allows you to do it for 5 minutes. It counts them down in the last minute. It's perfect. So just take a look at that. It's a really great tool. And then the other thing, Joe already mentioned it, make sure they know how to mute. Make sure that you, you know, the whole video thing, just make sure that all works. All right, I want to keep going. I feel like I don't think I've even taken one breath yet, so I'm excited about that. It's because I'm a trumpet player, guys. So if you have any trumpet players out there, you're right with me on this, all right? Social outreach. I'm big on social outreach. Let me just very quickly outline what that is. So most of us work on the level of cultural outreach. Like that's our default. We do concerts. We do them for the community, or we do them for people to come in or for the students. That's cultural outreach. Then there's civil outreach, which is when you go out and do something in the community for maybe there's a store opening or Memorial Day or there's a parade. That's civil outreach. Social outreach is something that I got hot onto about a decade ago. It is amazing. Are you able to provide music for a population of people who would normally not be able to have music? That's social outreach. Did you go to a veteran center? Did you go to a veteran's house? Did you go to a hospital, children's hospital? Did you go to a homeless shelter, a women's shelter, anything? That's it. But let's think globally now. Who can go watch live music right now? Nobody. Literally, nobody can go do that right now. So that circle of social outreach expanded like in the millions now. So what I've done with our students in the spring, which I'm not going to formalize in the fall, is we're going to focus on social outreach. How do we get music to the people? Not virtually, but literally live. Here's one easy way to do it. They go out onto their street, literally into their driveway, and they play. Play for their neighbors. Let them know they're going to come out and do it. Okay? Now, if that's what you put in place, now you build backwards from that. So you build backwards, for instance, do you want to talk about repertoire with them? Do you want to talk about performance practices? Do you want to talk about performance anxiety? One of the funniest things that happened is the students went for it, and I had students saying, I was so nervous. I've never been that nervous. And I asked them, well, why were you nervous? You're literally just playing. They don't even hear your mistakes. Like, well, I've never done anything like that before. What if my neighbors don't like it? What if they tell me to shut up? They don't want to hear it. They had all these interesting mindsets about what would happen if they went out and literally just played in public instead of having the public come to them. So they were like buskers in their own street. It was amazing, the feedback, amazing. And by the way, just to scale up real quick, when we get back to live and being able to meet as a group, please do yourselves a favor and at least once go play at a shelter or a hospital or a veteran center. Do it once. If you've never done it, you will never, ever forget it, and neither will your students. It's why we do music. It reminds you in an instant why music is so powerful. So social outreach, the beauty of this is you can scale it up. So while each student might be able to go out into their neighborhoods, you know what? If you're following protocol, COVID protocols, and you're whatever area you're in allows a couple students to get together, or 4 or 5 or 10 or whatever, and the social distancing is in place, they can do a chamber thing. They can do a small group thing. Where can they do it? Wherever they're allowed. Wherever they're allowed, right? You don't have to create an audience. The audience is there already if you're in a neighborhood. So strongly suggest you, and then for me, I'm providing accountability. That's where the grading comes in. I am going to grade them, but go to Joe's question. I'm not going to grade them on their actual performance. Like, okay, that was horrible. You made a mistake in measure 13. I'm not going to do any of that. We don't do that in a concert, do we? Think about how you grade them for a concert or a rehearsal. Rarely do you grade them for what notes or technical aspects or none of that. You're doing something else. This is the perfect opportunity to do just that. Are you grading them on their timeliness, on their preparedness, on their choice of repertoire, on the way they prepare? I mean, there's so many ways you can do it. So social outreach. Okay, make sure you set the parameters, of course, for all that ahead of time. And before I go any further, let me just say, you're all going to have my email. I'm happy to talk to any of you about any of this in great depth and give you much more detail. I'm doing the racehorse thing right now, going as fast as I can. A quick thing about lectures and delivery. If you're going to do a lecture or delivery, let's just give you, so for me, I'm covering things this semester that I would never cover in a rehearsal in depth, wind band history, conducting techniques. I'm gonna show them some things and give them insight into that. Composer bios and styles. I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into that. Instrument master classes. Oh, definitely. I want them to hear other players. I want them to hear themselves. You know, a lot of you have amazing, amazing players in your ensembles. Leverage them. Leverage their skill set. Imagine how they're gonna feel about, hey, I'd really like you to take 30 minutes of this class now. And I want you to give us the master class. Oh, and yeah, I'm also going to bring in, Arturo Sandoval, but that'll be later. That won't be now. So leverage the skill set that you have in your own ensemble or yourself. I've already played for my kids. It made me have to practice. Holy smokes. But it was great. They really enjoyed it. So leverage all of that. And then again, consider if it's something that, like wind band history, do you really want to sit there and lecture live and do a live stream? Or do you want to give them little snippets, right? And just put it online for them to look at, and then maybe take a quiz. For me, I do quizzes on all this stuff. And they're very low stakes quizzes. I want them to be engaged. I want them to want to keep coming back to the site and coming back, because that's where they have to go now, right? They can't go to your classroom. So where are they going to go? Your classroom is the site. So I want them to keep wanting to hit that site because it's interesting, it's engaging. There's discussions, there's music, lots of music. And the last thing about this is just scaling up. So we're in a no group part of the scale. We can't have any groups at all. But I'm already planning, like I've got a plan in place, a written plan in place for what happens when we can introduce small groups, like chamber size groups. And then how do we transition into the larger groups? Like, I'm already considering the physical space. Like we're in California, so sorry, I know Joe's in Pennsylvania, so you're going to freeze your butt off for 9 months of the year. But we're in California. I can rehearse outside. I can take the study that was just given out by Cbdna, and I can utilize that and figure out how I can, hey, you know what? We don't have to leave our classroom for 30 minutes because our classroom's outside. So here we go. Or I'm going to use the student center, which is massive. Yeah, nobody else is having class anyway. So I'm already ready for the scale up, but I'm starting at the no group part of it. So it's just something to consider in your global plan. Woo, I'm almost done. Don't worry, guys. And I know it's a lot of information. I'll remind you again for anybody who came in late, I have all of this on writing. And I don't just mean my PowerPoints. I mean, all the details I'm giving you is written down by bullet points. Okay, guys? So don't worry. Oh, I see a lot of you smiling at this one. Is it because you recognize? The question you would ask yourself is, what instrument is that kid going to be playing when he gets older? Right? I'm thinking sousaphone. But anyways, okay. Considerations. So just some tech considerations to think about. Internet, it sounds obvious, but just keep in mind, surprisingly enough, not every student has internet access. So it's just something to consider. And also speed. Holy smokes, I spent about 3 hours in the last week talking to my service provider to get my mobile hotspot where it should be. It was very aggravating, and that's me knowing what I'm doing, right? So it's something to consider. Your school platform, really consider jumping on that school platform and learning about it. Have a colleague help you, whether it's Canvas or Moodle or Blackboard or whatever you're using, Google Classroom. It really is a great tool. Students are used to it now. That's the thing. They're used to it. They know it. And not just because of COVID. It's been around longer than we have. So check it out. Consider using social media. Some of you are already doing that. A lot of you are doing that. Again, I know Frank over there at K-State, they're using that a lot. And guess what? It's working. Why? Because I'll tell you this. I have 2 kids in college now and 2 in high school. I tell them, hey, I'm going to email you something. Dad, nobody uses email anymore. What? I'm like, well, how does that work? So consider how you're going to use social media, which a lot of you do, and tying that into for me, I like to tie it into the school platform, putting links in. Really quick tech thing. If you're going to do, you're going to be doing Zooming and stuff like that, do some of the easy stuff like your lighting. When you Zoom, put a light in front of you, like so you can see my hand. If you put it behind you, it's horrible. If you put it aside you, there's just a massive shadow. You got to put a light in front of you. It's a really easy thing, but the reason I'm doing that is I want them to really be able to see my face and my eyes because I'm trying to engage with them. And it goes right back to that same thing. And of course, it does, if you have a really grainy camera, it's worth the investment. It really is. Just get an HD webcam, something simple. It doesn't cost much. The audio too. The audio, I'm not using any extra audio right now. I'm just on my computer. It works fine. But if you are in a situation where you're going to find you're using a lot of external sounds besides your speaking voice, or if you just want your voice to be really, really clean. I mean, really like the enunciation, pronunciation, the inflection of the voice. It does make a difference. Go out and buy a mic. I did that. It was under $100. It was totally worth the difference in sound. Totally worth the difference in sound. And it came with a stand and everything, so I could pop it anywhere. I should have put it in now just to show you guys. I'm sorry I didn't. It makes the difference in the sound. We're all used to doing what we're doing right now. You see how like none of us really have mics on or anything. But you put a mic in front of you, and you sound like Howard Stern. And if you ever hear him without a mic, he sounds horrible. All right. Anyways, let's keep going. I'm just joking, guys. You're Howard Stern fans. I probably just dated myself too. All right. This goes back to being patient about the students. Some of them may not be able to grab any of this. I have found in a few occasions I've used the phone the way the phone used to be used. I just talked to them. And I tried to figure out how to get them on board, what I could do, for them in that case. If it was just texting, obviously that's not a good default. You want them actually to be able to get on board with everybody. But please do not negate that as a possibility, at least to make the initial contact. I think it's so important. And the last thing about tech is a little bit goes a long way. So for those of you who are feeling completely overwhelmed with the amount of technology that's been thrown at you, even right now in the last 5 minutes or in the last 3 months, trust me, ignore most of it. Grab 1 or 2 things that you go, I can grab that, and just grab that. Like start there, really. It'll be so much easier. Okay, cranking it out here. How are we doing on time? You know what, all my clocks went out. Joe, you let me know when we got 5 minutes, okay? Please. Resources. You guys know all the resources already. I think a lot of them. Of course, the Cbdna COVID forum is fantastic. I love how some of you are smiling at the pictures because I take hours finding just the right pictures for you guys. So again, look at that picture and you tell me what instruments those 2 guys play. Are they even in the same section or what? Who knows? Okay. So about the college sites. What I want to encourage you to think about exploring are the high school and middle school sites, because those guys are doing or are trying to do music every day, 5 days a week with the same group, right? They're saturated with possibilities and brainstorming strategies. So I've gone on to things. If you haven't looked at these sites, again, I've written all these down, don't worry. But like the middle school band director forum, the band director blueprint group, jazz band for the jazz band director forum, band directors. There's 2 different sites on Facebook. These are all on Facebook. It's just called band directors. There's 2 different sites, but these are all really geared towards K through 12, really high school and some middle school. They have some great ideas, really do. And they tease them out. They love to just go back and forth and how do you do this? And and here's this. And they share resources like we're doing. But again, they do it every day. So some of us only rehearse a couple times a week. We're able to do a lot with their information, so grab that. And the 2 I have on here are very global. It really goes back to online strategies, but they're fantastic. And they're both free, by the way. Everything, all the resources that I'm listing are free. So one's called Faculty Focus. Just Google it. It's for higher ed instructors. And right now, guess what the focus is? Online teaching. Okay, you can just sign up to get their daily like blogs or whatever, or their weekly blogs, and they're free. They're run by Magnet Publication, if you know that company. So there is money involved if you go like that deep into a conference, but you don't have to do any of that. I literally get something once a week from them, and everything has been about online learning. Faculty Focus is very much to do with how you're working your course. And Scholarly Teacher, there's a blog, again, free. And again, for higher ed people. And again, everything on there right now is to do with online teaching. So if you want to just kind of get your head around different ideas about what you can do with your class on Canvas, check that out, just how you can engage and stuff. The last thing I want to mention is, before we go to the Q&A, is that in the handout that I'm giving you guys, there's also a sample of what I've sent to our students, our alumni. I've sent to everybody who I know who might be interested in getting involved, also to our administrators. It gives them an idea of what we're going to do in the fall. It tells them how the auditions are going to work. It tells them what kind of ensemble we're going to have. I'll give you a little nugget here. Because they're only letting me run 2 ensembles, I've actually combined the band and orchestra into one ensemble. And because it doesn't really matter, like sound-wise, I can deal with that. If I have to do a virtual band, I have to do social outreach, anything I have to do, I can work with any instrument within the European tradition. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a European slanted ensemble, and it's a way that I'm able to do that. Now, some of you have much larger programs. You're really robust. You're going to have your wind ensemble, symphonic winds, wind campus, whatever, and it's so great. You run with it. It's something that I've done for this semester that's working, that I know it's going to work for me for what I've done. That'll be on the platform there. Okay, that was a trumpet player's breath. Before I open up for questions, I do want to mention one thing, and that's what this picture is for. If there's anything on here, because I've given you a lot of stuff, I don't want you to try to take it all in and go, I'm going to do it all. But if there's one thing, one nugget that you grabbed out of everything I just spewed out of my mouth, I would love for you to take a moment to write that one thing down so that you have your own documentation of saying, this is the thing I'm going to grab. This is the nugget that I'm going to take and run with. This one idea, this one initiative, this one strategy, this one activity, whatever it is, grab it and write it down. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask Joe if there were any questions that came up. I'm going to stop sharing here. There we go. If there are any questions that came up, and also if anybody has a question, just kind of interrupt. What do we got?
Well, thanks, David. We're going to do the formal ending in just a bit, but there were a couple of maybe questions or things that maybe you can comment on from your perspective in the chat, and hopefully we can talk about that now. One of the suggestions was, when we're talking about technology, that you, the teacher, are doing a lot of effort, or putting a lot of effort into be tech savvy and to adjust the lighting in your room and use the best technology. How much instruction do you think our students should get on the same thing, on how to be technologically savvy in their own home environment or whatever, or wherever they are?
Yeah, you know, I think an easy way to address that is to include that information in either your syllabus, like put it on your website, or even in an announcement. That could be one of your announcements at the very beginning. It doesn't take much because the kids are fairly tech savvy already. Most of them run circles around us. But the idea, for instance, that they're lighting, like an easy thing. Hey, put your camera on when you're in class. You know, like that's an easy thing to address in the protocol. Also, make sure that when the lighting, the audio, the whole thing, make sure you can hear yourself, touch yourself. I think that's an easy thing to do. In fact, I think I put it in my syllabus for my students. I just tell them a step-by-step, do this, do this, do this. It'll give you better sound, better video, better everything. And it's not a long document. Literally, it's like 4 or 5 lines, bullet points, and you're done. So yeah, it's a great point, because again, if you're wanting to engage with them, like, you guys can see me now. You can see my lighting's okay. I'm not actually doing anything special except the sunlight is in front of me, and I made sure of that. But what a drag, right? If you could see your students, but only in shadow. Because again, it's diminishing the way you can engage with their eyes and with their facial expressions. So yeah, cool. Any other things?
Yeah, there was a lot of there was some questions about specific tech recommendations, and people had suggestions in the chat. But I was wondering if you had any specific, off the top of your head, reasonably priced tech recommendations for a Zoom based environment.
If you don't have Zoom,
Just
so
tech.
just tech. Okay, so if you're going to do something like Zoom, but you don't have Zoom in your state or whatever, Google Meets, using Team Meets, which is I think actually that's a Windows software if you have that, but Google has it. Every platform now has some sort of um, Zoom-like thing, right? So just find the one that's free in your area. I find that Google has it for sure. Windows has it for sure. Um, if anybody else has another one, just list it down here for sure. Uh, and I use Zoom. Tech-wise, for like if you're going to do the audio, for me, I find that Audacity does everything I need it to do. It's a free website, guys, and that's just for recording sound. There are also free conversion software platforms online. If you're like, for instance, if you needed to convert something from one kind of media to another, you can totally find it online. I actually decided in the end to use a site called Zamzar, uh, just because it does cost me, I think, something like $10 a month, but I'm converting so many files now, different kinds of audio and video files into other like into MP4s and MP3s. I just decided it was worth the price. Like, okay, I could pay this much for something else or just use that. So I use Zamzar to do conversions. And by the way, for those of you who aren't tech savvy, converting something to something else is super easy. It'll do it for you online. You just got to find the right one. And then for those of you who are like, I arranged, for this thing that I did recently, this promo vid I had to arrange some of the music because we had bassoons and violins and trumpets and trombones and then non-instruments like percussion. And I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. We're getting close. So I had to arrange some stuff. MuseScore is it's free. MuseScore is free, a free notation software online, and it does everything I needed to. So those are my sort of top recommendations. Video-wise, iMovie is, of course, if you have an iPad, but it only allows for 9 little boxes. So it's very limited if you're going to do something large. So I went all the way. I did Adobe. If you do Adobe Premiere Pro, please first check with your university to see if they have a license. Most music folks won't even know that they have a license because we don't use it. Your art department uses it. Your media department uses it. So first check with your university IT people to see if you guys have a license, because if you do, use Adobe Premiere. It is very complicated, but step by step, I'm going to give you that list. So those are my suggestions.
Well, and then we don't have much time, but I wanted to get your thoughts on something. So this is a question from me. What are some of your strategies you could suggest, considering that we're all over the country right now, like the people in this room, and every place is different? The thing that I'm struggling with is how to engage the students who have instruments that they may not have access to because of COVID-19. Your percussionists that you just mentioned, or people with bigger instruments. So do you have any suggestions for how to navigate engaging them in the same way in your ensembles?
So I've tried a couple things. I'll just tell you one thing that I've done. I had a couple of students who were percussionists who really wanted instruments, and my college wouldn't let me do it. So I called the local high schools, found a high school that was willing to loan, and I got them to go pick it up. So I just thought outside the box. It's like, let's just use all our resources. So that's one thing that I've done already a couple times because my college won't let me do it. If my college lets me do it, I'm loaning instruments. I'm handing out contracts. I'm going to do that and give everything that I can, because isn't that what the instruments are for, right? They're for the students, whether they're on campus or not. So, and I just have to be really meticulous about keeping track of that. This fall is the first time I'm going to deal with that. So I think for me, the thing that would help me the most in your situation, Joe, is to be able to communicate together with each other. Like the first person who finds a solution for that or tries something should share it with all of us. Like literally, we need to make sure we keep doing that. We need to keep sharing every new victory that we have, whether we realize it's a victory or not. We need to keep sharing that with each other because somebody else is going to need that information, So that's my short answer.
Yeah, and actually, there was a really interesting note from Caitlin in the chat that says students may be able to apply for a CARES Act grant to purchase an instrument at home. That's something that I think we all should maybe consider. So that
Yep.
wraps up the time that we have. So I'd like us all to give a virtual round of applause to David. So I'll just go ahead and mine will be audible. So thanks again for presenting today, David. I want to also thank a couple other people. Thanks to Josh Kearney from University of Nebraska Omaha, who is the chair of the social media committee. Thanks to Mark Speed, the president of Cbdna, for the support of this initiative. Um, our next webinar is going to take place 1 week from today on July 28th. It's going to be a little different in that it's not going to be a synchronous live meeting. It's actually going to be pre-recorded and then uploaded at that time. But at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a really fascinating session from John Pasquale, the Associate Director of Bands at the University of Michigan, and David Klemmer, who is the visiting professor at the VDB Music Academy in Staufen, Germany. And their session is called The Conductor as Artistic Leader versus Pedagogue, Crossing the Line in the Sand. So some details on how to access that will be posted very soon. So thank you all for joining us today. This meeting will be archived and posted on the Cbdna YouTube page. Have a wonderful day and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.